Hello friends, and welcome back to Yosemite National Park. This is a very special episode because in this one, I share how to capture beautiful details with the telephoto lens, how to shoot incredible scenes under various lighting conditions, and we experience some of the most magical moments I've ever had in the park. I really hope you enjoy watching. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another landscape photography vlog. And this time, we're back in Yosemite National Park. Got my buddy Nick here on the adventure. We got our telephoto lenses out, 100 to 400 as usual. Right now we're photographing Bridalveil Falls, and this looks spectacular. So let me show you what we're working with here. So here's the waterfall at about 100 millimeters. There's the top right there, kind of a blue sky up top, so I'm not really focused too much on the sky. And then if I kind of aim the camera downward, look at all that mist that's catching the direct light. There's like these little light beams that keep shining, and then every once in a while you see the mist kind of framing the ribbons of water coming down. So with that being said, I'm kind of prioritizing doing a really high shutter speed here. No need to do a long exposure. I'm just trying to get all of that action. The mist is so beautiful. So up top here, you can see there's kind of this beam of light, and then you get the specular highlights off of the ribbons. But then down here is where we can focus on the mist. For focus, it's really tough to focus on the falls in the mist. What I'm finding is the easiest thing to do is shift over to the cliffside just to the left, and then focus on the rocks that are catching some of the light. And then I can flip back over to the waterfall knowing that they're at the same plane of focus. As far as my settings go, again, really high shutter speed. I like to do double my focal length. That's kind of my rule of thumb. And for the ISO, I am kind of bumping that up to 500 to give myself the extra breathing room for the shutter speed. Oh, that shape looks incredible right now. Okay, so here's my first shots of this beautiful waterfall, focusing on the textures and the ribbons of the falls. This session almost felt like a bit of a warm-up, just really getting a sense for the different shapes. What was challenging here was the mist that would constantly shift at different times, and a lot of the times it was covering the falls altogether. I noticed every once in a while a bird would fly back and forth past the cliffs, so I decided to shift my composition to the top of the falls, and after a bit of waiting, here's what I got. I loved catching this bird in frame with that gorgeous mist glowing off the top of the falls. For this one, I underexposed the scene by quite a bit to protect all of those highlight details and let the rocks naturally fall into shadow. Capturing birds flying among these massive cliffs would become a major theme for me later on. All right, well, this was fun. I think we're going to keep cruising through the valley and see what other waterfalls we can shoot and maybe textures and things like that. But the cool part about Yosemite National Park is it doesn't matter the time of day, it doesn't matter the conditions, there is always something amazing to shoot. On a clear day like this, it was the perfect opportunity to shoot backlit mist. So we went down to the base of the falls, and rather than shoot the waterfall itself, we focused on the mist with some of these gorgeous trees. I loved the drama here, but to be honest, these were very tricky to shoot. We ended up getting soaked with water, so using a rocket blower to get those water spots off the lens and covering the lens between shots was essential. Afterwards, we explored some of the woods in the open shade, which is another really great thing about Yosemite National Park. The rock walls are so tall here that throughout the day you can still get nice shaded areas even during midday light. So we looked for some interesting forest scenes and textures, and here's what we captured. In spring, these dogwood flowers bloom across the valley, offering beautiful textures to play with. I also enjoyed the color contrast of the leaves against the warm tones of the trees here. For these shots, I used my telephoto lens on a tripod and shot f/16 to ensure the sharpness from front to back. Of course, the afternoon wouldn't be complete without shooting some tree bark textures. This one ended up being my favorite with those curvy shapes and the warmth mixed with the cooler highlights. After a successful day of exploring, we headed back to Bridalveil to try and capture a rainbow on the face of the falls.
All right, so we're back out shooting, and we've been chasing this rainbow on Bridalveil Falls. We found it from the other side of the valley from a bit of a distance. We're running all over the place trying to get it in the right position, just because, you know, as that sun keeps traveling down, the rainbow keeps shifting. And then we finally decided to head a bit closer, and this looks amazing. I mean, you can see the rainbow in there. It's pretty vivid even right now. I mean, even without a bunch of mist, it looks so good. And I love the texture of the rock on the right side. I've been playing around with that a lot. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Wow. So I've just been playing around with a bunch of different compositions, trying a few verticals, some horizontals, just to see, you know, what'll look the most interesting, and constantly watching the water, because every second that rainbow shifts its position, and when you least expect it, you end up seeing these really cool swirls, which are probably, I think that's been the most interesting thing to watch. Oh, there we go. That looks so good.
Here's one of my favorite rainbow shots that I captured that evening, and it almost looks like a face-off between two creatures or animals. After snapping tons of frames of this one scene, this was really the only frame that worked well for this composition and what I was going for, and it would have been very easy to miss this moment, and that's why it's so important to keep a close eye on the water movement here. And now I'd love to hear from you. What do you end up seeing in this photograph? Please let me know in the comments.
Oh, there we go. There's some swirls. Oh, did you get that? Did you get when there was like a really nice section of water that came down on the right side?
In addition to shooting the rock wall with the waterfall, I also had a lot of fun just capturing the water ribbons with the rainbow itself. Filling the frame with the water gave it a bit more abstraction and allowed the image to be more about all those beautiful textures and the colors. I really liked the water shape of this one specifically, and again for my settings here, I'm using a very high shutter speed to capture all of that texture, bumping my ISO to compensate, and then using a fairly low f-stop because I'm shooting the same plane of focus.
Okay, we're gonna keep chasing this rainbow and see what we get. And of course, right as I say that, it's like a really nice burst.
One of the keys to shooting rainbows in your photography is shifting your perspective to see how that rainbow enhances the composition, or changing your perspective to see what new compositions get revealed with the rainbow. And walking closer to the falls allowed us to reposition the rainbow to be just beyond these branches. Here's another image, this time including some trees down below for texture, and I loved how the rainbow is nearly horizontal in this frame, creating a balanced, symmetrical composition. After one of the best days of photography I've had in a long time, we went to sleep and prepared for a hike the next day.
All right, so we are just on a hike here in Yosemite. Absolutely spectacular hike, going up the cliffs to see if we could get a good perspective of Yosemite Falls. I'm super excited because I've never seen this view before. We have a few things planned after a minor amount of effort to get up here, but even right now, look at these views. Look at that. It is stunning. There's the entire valley down there. And so we're just going to continue up. I think we've been climbing about 700 or 800 feet. We're just going to keep going up and up and up. And at the end of this trail, we're going to get an amazing view of Yosemite Falls.
At the midway point, we got a beautiful view of Half Dome in the valley, and we could start to hear the distant roar of Yosemite Falls.
Check this out. Ooh! Absolutely spectacular. Such a clean view of the waterfall. We're so close up here. I can feel the mist from the falls. I mean, look at down here. Yeah, I mean, you can't see anything. It's just water, just tons of water pouring down. The wind of like all that spray is blowing the trees. And then you can see all the way to the top of the falls. It's really amazing. I think we're gonna take some pictures, but what I wanna do is go a little further down this trail and just see what the perspective looks like. There is a slight chance it's gonna be almost too wet for us to take pictures, but we're gonna give it a try to see.
From higher up the trail, we were able to see a side view of the falls, which offered a great perspective. Because of the time of day, the falls were already in open shade, so I decided to try something a little bit different, this time focusing on black and white textures. And here's what I came up with. This series of images was a blast to capture, and staying on the same theme of finding creatures in my scenes, here's one where it looks like a bird swooping into the frame. Until now, everything I had shot on this trip was with my telephoto lens, but further up the cliffs there was a great opportunity to shoot a wide angle of Yosemite Falls with Half Dome in the background, and here's how that turned out. For this photograph, I'm using my 16-35 lens on the widest millimeter. I thought it was nice that the cliffside was falling into shadow, while the luminosity of the waterfall stayed pretty bright, which allowed it to stand out against the cliffs, and how you have the tree line silhouetted against the glowy background with Half Dome out there. And here's a slightly different composition, this time a panorama. So I'm doing 5 vertical frames and then stitching them all together to create this wide perspective. In this one, I thought it was really cool to get some of those textures up in the sky to break up the shades of blue. The weather changed dramatically over the next couple of days, going from 80 degrees and sunny to cold, misty, and with snow at higher elevations. A big storm rolled in overnight, and as that rain cleared, we were greeted with mist on the cliffs, which are some of my favorite conditions to photograph.
So we're out here photographing around Yosemite Falls, and there's some beautiful mist lifting off the cliffs. So naturally, we've got our telephoto lenses out, 100 to 400, and we're just kind of picking off shots as the mist lifts off these cliffs and churns around. And we've probably been here about an hour so far, and it just keeps shifting into different positions. So you have to be extra vigilant, just kind of watching the way everything moves. Here is about 100 millimeters. If I zoom on in here, you can see just how fast those clouds are moving. It's pretty incredible. And then if I pan over to the left side, if I can find it, there's good old Yosemite Falls right there. And we've been trying to see if there's a moment where the clouds kind of frame the waterfall. It's harder to get something like that. It's asking for a lot, but I've just been, constantly watching to see when these clouds push over, and if there's a moment that I can capture in there. If it does happen, it's going to be a split second. So, I'm watching the right side of the cliff for some of the jagged peaks. I'm watching the left side of the cliff for some of the trees that are on that side. And then I'm also kind of glancing at the waterfall to see what happens over there. And even as I'm talking, I'm noticing some mist swirling on the right side of these cliffs over here. I love this jagged shape, this triangular shape of the cliff. And right now the fog is kind of lifting up the top of it. I want to wait to see if there's some straggly mist that can go on the bottom and help to make it look like it's floating out there. There's these incredible trees near Yosemite Falls, and they're kind of diffused because of the mist of the falls. And there's some spotlighting behind them, and I want to include them with some of the beautiful rock textures in the background. For my settings here, I've decided to bump my ISO, prioritize my shutter speed, and I'm not really worried about the f-stop at all. I'm doing, a pretty wide aperture because I want to be quick about this. I don't want to have to do a slight long exposure, set a timer, because things are happening too fast. If I do that, I'm going to miss the moment, because by the time I angle over there and click the shutter, it's going to be gone. So right now, it's all about the high shutter speed. And frankly, if I wasn't vlogging, I might not even be on a tripod right now. I might just do this handheld. Again, I'm always doing double the shutter speed than what my focal length is. So for this, 1/800th of a second is perfect.
On this day, Half Dome was mainly covered in the clouds, but did make a few very, very brief appearances, and this being one of them. I really liked how the clouds here made this swirling vortex, and how the darker clouds up top kind of made a natural framing element. These conditions lasted over a couple days, with rain coming and going, and in between the rain we wandered to various spots looking for more scenes we could pick out. And sure enough, with a little persistence, we were able to witness some incredible moments. Alright, so this shot is everything I was envisioning when we had predictions of rain. The towering rock face shrouded in clouds, and a couple birds gliding through the frame. We waited at the spot for over 2 hours to get a good composition. Most of the time the rock face was either too covered in clouds, or then it would clear up, revealing too much of the bottom of the frame, and for this one all the elements came together perfectly. But it took a lot of patience, and that's one of the fun challenges of landscape photography. You can never expect to show up and get a good shot immediately. Plus, it's never a bad time waiting in a beautiful place like this, even if it's raining. And sometimes in photography, you just get lucky. Initially, I was shooting a cliff off to another side when I saw this bird swooping in from the right side. I noticed that there might be a slight chance the bird was going to glide right in front of El Cap, so I rapidly shifted my perspective, fired off as many frames as I could, tracking the bird through the scene. Luckily, everything was in focus, and everything came together really nicely for this one. Here's another frame I'm really happy with this lone tree just peeking out from the clouds on the hillside. And again, it was one of those waiting games. The rain kept coming and going, and it would have been very easy to give up here and go inside or go home. But I promise you, if you stick out the tougher weather, you can get treated with some pretty special moments. This trip to Yosemite was unforgettable, and even though I find myself saying that, well, pretty much every single time I visit Yosemite, this one may have been my favorite trip. The variety of weather conditions and different scenes we were able to capture here was incredible. And just remember, for your own trip, don't worry about the weather. If you get some crystal clear, hot days, there's always the chance of backlighting mist, catching rainbows, or even using open shade to shoot forest and textural scenes. If it's overcast, rainy, or moody, work with the atmosphere and tie it into your images, and don't be afraid to shoot throughout the day rather than just at sunset or sunrise. Of course, if a good sunset presents itself, don't shy away from it, but try and utilize all the different lighting conditions that you can. And what's cool about taking all of these principles and working it into your photography is I found, at least for myself, it's really hard to get burnt out when there's so many different ways to capture a place. With that, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel for more. And if you want to learn more from me, you can check out my workshop page over on my website. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.